Monchiere Holmes-Jones, founder and president of Jefferson Street Historical Society. Born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, where we preserve everything, and specifically history. It's the reason culture is capital there. It's the reason culture is not just a tourist attraction. We actually eat off of our culture. We eat off of our land. Everything that is in existence of who we are, especially as all people, black, white, blue or green, whatever your race is, can thrive without any influence of the internet off of the culture. Fast forward, graduate of Xavier University of Louisiana, interned every semester, and one of those internships was for the Historic Garden District. At the time, Historic Garden District is a place that has ambassadorship homes from global around the world. And so the preservation of just the home alone, they had to have a PR firm. So just understanding, Beyonce had a house there, if that makes it make sense to you, the type of places that this is. Fast forward, I just was like, that's an internship. I did it, did the PR, I learned a lot, connected with a lot of people. Always been a history lover. I'm here in Nashville, probably about 10 years later, maybe 15 years later. And I'm recognizing as we open our office on historic Jefferson Street, which was intentional, that they were not doing any preservation at the level of what preservation should be done. A lot of the issues that I feel Nashville exists with around culture is because no one is amplifying all of the cultures. No one is beyond Broadway. No one is preserving history in the sense of other just saying, oh, that used to be. And I'm like, okay, what is it today? How can we make it be something? How could there be value or capital added to it? And then assessing when there's no land and there's no space, you still have the culture capital and the history that goes with it. So I went to the leaders, the elders, the old heads as I call them, and I was like, y'all should be doing a historical society so we won't lose any more land, and so we won't lose the culture that this is the only place in America with 90 plus black owned businesses. And so it was super important for me to kind of push that. And at the time, many of the elders were like, no, we never did that before, actually. And some were like, well, I don't have time for it, but it's a great idea. And so the few that said yes have been on the historic street for about 30 plus years in business, and they thought it was a great idea. And so they joined me in founding this organization. Yusuf Harris of Akibalon, Dr. Boyd and folks, also Rosetta Miller Perry, my mentor from the Tennessee Tribune, Mr. Nate Harris, all posthumously, Mr. Nate Harris of Woodcuts, good family friend. They said, yeah, let's do this. And so we did. And we founded this board that became somewhat of the millennial preservationists mixed with saviors and protectors of the historic street. We're now in a phase where we're including more people, but the moral of the story was to first preserve culture because land had already been taken, and then we would start regenerating land in spaces and places that articulated who we were and who we should be. Definitely, I've been blessed a long time ago to just learn how ecosystems work. I understood that if I wanted to be me in this city, I slept in Nashville one time on my way from Detroit. I was working at GM a couple years, and my husband and I, who are originally from New Orleans, we were driving home 3 times a year, and this was our stopping point. And I was like, okay, do they have black people here? Oh, they do. Okay, hold on. So as I kept learning about it, I became fixated on this place. And when we moved here, I was like, well, I want to put my business that I knew I was going to open on wherever this historic Jefferson Street that I had read about. And then I was like, okay, well, hold on. They need help because they don't really have the system that an Atlanta have or Orange County have or Detroit, all these places I've lived. And I was like, well, maybe let me find out like what they need to get it done. Again, going to the old head. A lot of people ask the question often, how do you build stuff in Nashville? I never build it without wisdom. And so collectively, I went to an array of people, but I just also have been blessed with just some mentors and some leaders in my atmosphere to let me know that you can't build something for yourself and then not make sure the community eat off of it. And so everything we do, if tomorrow we have a tour for Black architects who's here for a conference, and I made sure every business on the street knew, hey, look, this is an opportunity, make some money. Or it's also an opportunity to come meet these folks for future money. Or if you just want to be in the mix, come on and show up. And so folks have done that. And so that's kind of the model that I've lived by, ecosystem building. Understanding the motto of Sankofa and been living by it for a long time. I'm gonna get a little hoodoo on y'all. We didn't take medicines that were external to the body and not from the root of the earth until we're in our 30s. And where I'm from, we're Bayou kids. And so everything is tethered to history. Everything is tethered to our ancestry. We don't believe in if it hasn't happened before, we shouldn't do it again. And so it's always about who we were, because as a culture, and I'm gonna get on the high horse about Black people right now, as a culture, we're trying and thriving and being resilient through what we already should have had. Why I care about Black business and why we care about the historic Black business on the street, the brick and mortar, is because our ancestors and those before us, there's been thousands of me's before me. We're 160 years on this historic street. So we have to look at what we've done before. We have to look at who I was before. And who I was before was just an ambitious young Black girl who was raised by a military dad and great mom who was like, you got to stand up for people. You got to stand up for your family. You got to stand up for what's right. Knowing that folks had already tried before, tried and failed, tried and won, that's just the same model that I'm pushing forward right now. Oh, always. I mean, Jefferson Street is just the tip of the iceberg. For the last almost 5 years, we have done almost 10,000 hours in pro bono work as a team of 10, from DC to New Orleans to Nashville heavy. Most of the historical events that you see in the city, from the Fifth Avenue marker, marking the first sit-ins, was done by MOJO and my company that I work for and own. John Lewis March had over 3,000 people in attendance this past 2 weekends ago. We've done that for the last 4 years, making sure we're amplifying that. If you work for us and work for me in any space, you have to impact. And so if there's no impact, if that's not of interest to you, then you're not going to be a good model for being in my atmosphere. If you can't share, if you can't articulate that, people come to me all the time, both on Jefferson Street side and on my business side, asking for opportunities. And I give you a window into the thing, and I hope you grab it and make something out of it. A lot of times people are scared to do that. I think at this point, if we don't put 100 people at the table, we're in trouble anyway. So I'm always serving, always doing it. It's the best way to do business. I think one of the things is just strong consulting, having advisory. A lot of times we relate, can I have a coffee with you, as just, we connecting with friends. We're not friends. No offense, baby. We're not. We're not friends. You got to be in alignment with people to be a friend. But what we are advising you and donating our time and donating our relationship. And then if that evolves to a friend, cool. And people do that every day in the culture because we may not have the capital at the time, but we have the advice, the connection. And so being able to advise people through those spaces so that the ecosystem builds, that's always the flow. That's always the way. That's how we grow. I can think about all of the people that I just saw walking through the door that I know from other different organizations, been knowing for years, the conversations, the bags I've thrown, as the kids say, to various organizations in these same spaces, and they don't owe me nothing back. That's just kind of how we flow. Definitely defining being a game changer in collaborative efforts is really what I'm pushing right now. There's a huge conversation around activating and amplifying your community events. And my argument, and I will probably die on this hill, is that if you are not vested prior to by showing up for other organizations, partnering with other organizations, and not just trying to get your bag off of the partnership, then you're going to have trouble. You're going to have low attendance. You're going to have lack of engagement. You're going to have all the things, no matter how great your service is and how great the need of your audience is to be. You're going to have all those things. Investing in community is the number one play. And if you're not doing that as a game changer, and I'm talking about by connecting people, collaborating, truly collaborating, because collaborating for one person to get a transaction is not collaboration. Collaboration for two people to get a transaction is not collaboration. Collaboration is a long-term legacy. And how can you figure out how this thing could change the game? And that's what I would think a game changer should be doing. Well, make sure you're aligned. I can't do things without God. And I think a lot of times people super network. Super networking, in my opinion, is hopping from one event to the next because popular people are there. People you saw that were notable in the paper. You thought, okay, I want to rock with them. There's nothing wrong with admiring people for sure. But I think you're delaying your timetable if you're not very aligned and very intentional about your spaces and places. Obviously, everything we do needs to be monetized so that your purpose can be amplified, if you understand that. And so if folks is not really doing that and they're just kind of willy-nilly all over the place and waiting for the opportunity to come, is delaying the whole ecosystem again. So I would say when you get out there, look at the lay of the land, look who needs you the most, and look what you could do for free 99 that won't cost you anything because it's your gift. One example is that when I got here almost 14 years ago, I've been in the industry for marketing and branding at a Fortune 500 level, 4 different agencies, about 20 years, managing $35 million of budget. So I was like, oh, let me see organizations who need that. I can do that for free 99, show you how to do this, set up your strategic plan, all that stuff that people chat GPT and now we were doing for real. And we were actually putting it to the paper. So I went and found people who needed it for free 99, and I say free 99 with my work capital plus just giving it to them at no cost. And I gave that service and I didn't have any expectation. It was a way to connect and find out how to solve problems. And that's what you should be doing as a community leader for sure. So much good stuff. I'm excited about all of the folks articulating multi-layers of cultures that we have. I think social media is helping that, but we've been in silos for probably the last 10 years or so. And I would be like, well, you don't know the folks from the Hispanic Chamber? Well, you don't know well, you don't, wait a minute. Are y'all connected, right? It's exciting to see folks getting more connected so that this is not this conversation of the Black people over here, the Latino folks over here. We're trying to fold it all in amid the climate of what we're living right now. But we're standing up some amazing stuff. We're celebrating 160 years of historic Jefferson Street from Wagon Trail to today, because it was a wagon trail from a plantation, the Hadley Plantation, that now is this economic center worth over $1 billion. And so we're super excited about some of the things that we're standing up. We're getting ready for 30,000 plus people to come to Nashville of African American descent. Never in existence has that happened from a tourist standpoint. So we're excited to bring them and help us tell the world about historic Jefferson Street. So that's happening in 2026. We have a lot of great projects underway and the small land development, parking, various different projects that we're involved with that's really going to be something to transform the city.